Hey, it's Jon Francois here from the Delicious Recap Family Matters podcast. Andrew and I are so excited to be collaborating behind the scenes with Siege from the Bruh Meets World podcast, Danielle from the No More Late Fees podcast, to see if we can succeed together as much as possible in this very saturated rewatch podcasting space. And part of what we're doing on the way to success is asking you to fill out listener surveys. Now, you may notice in the show notes of this episode, a Family Matters Rewatch Pod listener survey. We would love it if you would take a second out of your gracious time to fill out that listener survey. Your feedback matters. It can help dictate the pace, the direction, the content, the style, everything that Andrew and I will do with this podcast going forward. Whether you love us, whether you hate us, either way, if you've given us a chance in some form or another, please take a second, fill out that listener survey. You'll see it in the show notes / episode description of this episode you're listening to right now. Thank you so much for your support. And now, on with the show. The Delicious Recap, Family Matters. I'm Jon Francois. Andrew, Ajay, Vandertunt. Who are you besides the sick puppy this week?
I am Little Richie, not the singer. I am Richie from Family Matters.
You know what? I that reminds me. There's like an HBO Max, I think docuseries or movie on Little Richard that I have to watch. And it has nothing to do with Baby Richie Crawford, but still, you just remind me of that. So thank you.
Watch it because it is good. I will tell you that. I know the documentary you talked about, and it's very good.
Oh, God. Yes. It's on my list. It's on my list. You know, what's also on my list is what's coming up right now. We are going to talk with Susan Merson, who you know as Sylvia the Contractor. Season 1, Episode 8, Mr. Badwrench. Carl is out of his mind trying to build a shower for his mama's bathroom. And then you have Sylvia trying to come in as the common sense saying, hey, Carl, hire us to do this work. I've seen men like you do this work on your own. So we're going to talk to Susan about that. Also, I mean, her resume is insane. Look her up, SusanMerson.com. You can look up her IMDb. I mean, she has been in shows like The Grey's Anatomy, The Watcher, 6 Feet Under, Frasier. She's been in movies like Tootsie. Has a very interesting thing to say about Dustin Hoffman, which kind of confirms the Me Too article that I read about him not too long ago. I don't know if you heard about that, Andrew.
I did hear about it, and I hate this term, but we have the hot take from it.
Yeah, I really wanted to ask her more about it, but I was like, let's not turn this into like a hit piece, like a gotcha journalism or whatever. You know, I don't want it to be like, oh, Susan Merson tells more about Dustin Hoffman. No. The focus should be her time with Family Matters, amongst other things throughout her career. So we are excited. Let's do it. Suzanne, take it away.
Are you enjoying this adventure that you're doing?
Oh, yes. This has been a fun adventure. I'm so excited to just keep going and doing more.
It's so funny to me because it's all about, it's like your love of this thing is so palpable. It's so beautiful. And I'm thinking, well, that's good. I'm really curious to know why this show and why you guys are so touched by it. Did it really just represent your youth, or what is it that really resonates with you for this thing?
You know, I honestly think that probably like the fact that, one, it's just a purely funny thing that we enjoyed from our childhood. Uh-huh. Two, the fact that it's a Black sitcom and one of the longest running ones at that. I think it's like
one of the first ones that could have came out in that Norman Lear kind of, age. Now, can I ask you this question? You can cut it if you don't like it. I mean, it was all white Jewish writers. How did you feel about that?
Well,
in early days, it was all these white liberal Jews, right, who said, okay, let's do this great sitcom about Black family life. But I think it was pretty authentic to the Black experience. But I don't know. I'm curious about that. How you guys feel about that?
So, Andrew, you can speak about it after, once I speak about it. I mean, at the time I watched it, I was a kid, so I had no idea who the writer was. Exactly. It was only after the fact that I'm learning like, oh, okay, here's the makeup of the writing team, and it doesn't quite exactly match the makeup of the cast. And Andrew, how about yourself?
For this show, it's one of those shows that stuck with me since my childhood. I used to watch the TGIF Friday block all the time. So for me, seeing the episodes when they were new, it was fun. And it was a family experience. But behind the scenes, my parents do, my mom would always say this would never happen in a Black family. So we kind of knew
that's what I'm interested in. That's what I think is interesting, because as the years went on, and white liberal Jews, like, okay, I'm one of them, who are kind of creating this narrative and attempting to go from Amos and Andy to the next step. It's just interesting to me that this has become such a, I mean, the joy that you guys have, it's so much fun to listen to you. Honest to God, so great. And I'm just curious about it because we live in such interesting times, and I'm so glad that you're able to find joy in it without it getting like, oh my God, oy vey, as they say in my culture. You know what I mean? So anyway, I'm just fascinated by that. And I think I just love that. I think wasn't it Urkel that got you guys going? Urkel sort of became this thing?
Oh, well, sure. I mean, Urkel, of course, became the star of the show. But I think
I was pre-Urkel. I think I was pre-Urkel.
You were. So yeah, let's get into that. So you are in season 1, episode 8. I believe it's called Mr. Badwrench. Andrew and I literally recapped it a few hours before we hopped on the Zoom with you. Can you tell us how you got the role of Sylvia the contractor in that episode?
Serendipity, I was a working actress at that time. I was reading for stuff, and I don't even know who the casting director was, but I mean, it was kind of like, okay, they're doing this 3 camera and, you want to read for this. And also because my look at that time, like it was, what was the 90s? What is the year that we did talking about here?
89,
90. So that my look was like not in. So what do you do with somebody who can be an actor and is like an actress and a theater actress and then comes to LA? Like, where are you going to put her? And I happened to and so that's why I would kind of end up in sometimes these bizarre, character parts. It was fun, as I remember. I think I told you. I remember meeting Reggie, the guy who wanted to be the lead, and I think I mentioned to you, Jon, that the only thing I remember about it was that we were on a break and he said to me, yeah, there's this kid. They're bringing this kid on there, and I thought that I was going to be the lead, but, it's okay because they're lovely people. That's really just the thing that I remember because then Urkel became such a big deal. But, that I was an actress and it was a job and I was odd enough. And where else are you going to put me? I hadn't done any series regulars at that point.
Let's go back to what you said. You said that your look wasn't in at the time. Now, do you mean like your physical look, or was it?
Look. Yeah, my physical look. I mean, now you'll see women who are younger women who I was at that point, who who are more ethnic looking. I mean, I had a really hard time working as in this, so I started my career in New York in the 70s. So 70s, 80s, 90s, man, until I became I got to be a real character actor that is after 40. God forbid you be older than 40, right? They never knew what to do with me. I remember auditioning, I think around that time or maybe before, like in the late 70s, early 80s, for this, remember this show called what's it? The Love Boat. So I was appearing in a play called Vanities off Broadway, and it didn't have a pen, I didn't have 2 pennies to rub together. But my agent called, they want to see you for this thing, and it was the days before all digital stuff, so they flew me to fucking LA on a in between shows on a weekend. Excuse my modifiers, and stayed in the Century Plaza Hotel. I mean, I had to eat in the hotel. I had no money. I had a pair of jeans and 1 pair of pants. And I read for, and they did my hair, like fancy. And I read for this part that very blonde girl got, who became a cocaine addict, God bless her. And I remember coming back when there was a whole drama that happened because I read it the first time. And as I turned around to leave, I fell and my pants split open, which was really great. Yeah, exactly. And Joel Thurm, God bless him, who was the casting director at that time, he didn't miss a beat. He took off his jacket. He put it right around me. He said, let's go again. And I did the next scene then. Anyway, when I came home, my agent said, oh, yeah, they really liked you. Really? Yeah, they really liked you. They just have a few things they'd like you to do. Now, they said, could you dye your hair? Could you change your teeth and have a nose job? And if you could do that, they'll consider you. And they weren't joking.
Wow. So for those who may not know, like, can you like physically describe how you looked at the time and how it didn't fit into the Hollywood mold, so to speak?
Well, I'm a dark-haired person. I'm a dark-haired Jewish person, ethnic person. You could probably see that I'm Italian. I play a lot of Italians, even Latino folks. I have very light skin, but I have very dark hair and big eyes, and an ample nose. And so either I look like a Jewish person or I look like an ethnic person. But the ethnic look was not in, until really the 2000s and after that. That's when the young people who were looking a little bit more like me were able to sort of move into the mainstream.
Like, what about you? Did the Family Matters casting director say, like, okay, Sylvia the contractor, that is Susan Merson? Is it because they were looking specifically for an ethnic contractor?
No, I think it was just, let's cast it quick. And I mean, it wasn't. Honestly, it was a couple scenes in a new episodic. It was not, at that time, it wasn't like a big deal. It was like a job, it was a 3-camera job. And probably, if I remember right, but God, it's been so many years. I think that the casting director who cast me, I had a few people who knew me from New York, and I had been quite a big deal in New York because I had done a couple of big shows. I'd done a couple of Broadway shows, and I'd done this play called Vanities, which was a very big deal, where the actress Kathy Bates came out of. So Kathy Bates came out of Vanities and became a movie star. And I came out of Vanities and disappeared, And I think that was, there's a real reason for that. So I think that's, I think that's how I got cast. Was I had an agent, God bless him, who was lovely, who believed in me. And I think the guy knew me from New York.
Yeah. So Andrew and I, when we were talking about the episode that you were in, we were struck by everything about your appearance. We were like, oh, who is this interesting woman? She has a notable accent that doesn't really sound like she's from Chicago. She has these interesting bangs. So I was wondering.
Had the same bangs I had then. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, how much of what you brought to Sylvia was genuinely you? How much of that was purely the character? Like, we were trying to figure that out. So I was hoping you could.
As I recall, I kind of pretended I was working class, right? I gave it a little accent or something. Yeah, probably I gave it a little New York accent or something like that, which was kind of stereotypical. It was coding. I mean, you're not talking about God bless them. It was a wonderful script and a wonderful thing. And but I wasn't a regular, so you have to come in, you got to get the code and you got to go. So what do you give them when you're doing these parts and you're trying to make a living out of it? What do you do? Well, you make a choice in an audition. Any choice will do, but make it strong and make it clear. And that day they said, okay, let's choose her. I don't think it was because I was any great, I mean, it could have, honestly, because of the nature of the business, it can go any way, I don't think they were making any statement except that they had a white plumber working with a black family. I mean, if there was any, they weren't casting, they were still casting white people. I mean, I do think there's social aspects to that, don't you? At that time. And I think everybody was being a little more polite about it, and all of that stuff. I find it fascinating when I look back at it, because I think as the seasons went on, it got much more black actors. There weren't as many white actors in it.
From my observation, yes. Andrew, do you agree with that, or do you disagree?
Definitely, I agree with it. So to touch on your point of, to have a plumber come in who it looks white for working for a black family, it's something that I wouldn't have expected as an adult.
And a woman. Right.
And on top of that, I wouldn't have expected that back then on television because, we had the stereotypical plumber, some big guy named Bubba who comes in and is only
Jackie Gleason. It was Jackie Gleason or me,
Yes.
I watch a lot of old TV. I watch a lot of old films, really, a lot of TCM. And the reason I find it so fascinating is because it really tells us about where we were, where we were as a country and what we were talking about and how we were trying to talk about it together or again, or against each other. We thought we were so advanced, right? And now look where we are. Everything's totally screwed up again, because we're in a new cycle. So I find that aspect of it pretty interesting. And as I recall, as soon as Urkel came in, it became like, wow, a big shot show. Then they got their rhythm. Then they knew that this was a black community. We're representing it with black actors. And this is and I don't know, you guys would know more, but, and I didn't really follow the show, but then it became much more, I think, authentic to the rhythm. I mean, of a real Black community. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't recall that the lingo was, that the rhythms they were pretty middle class American, white American. It was written that way.
And that could be a reflection of the writing staff that was there. And I wonder, actually, while you had that time experience as a guest star on Family Matters, did you have those conversations with the writers and cast, those social issues? Like, white plumber, Black family. Did you have any of that conversation with?
If I would have been a regular, I would have. But remember, when you were a day player, you came in and you hit your mark, you said your words, and you went home. That's really what it is. I think now, and over the years, as I look over the work that I've done, I've been at it for a while, one can see the way in which the society and media, is reflecting our communities as you move forward, And at that time, I don't think I was just lucky to get the job, frankly. And I was never in a power position. First of all, I was not somebody who got cast a lot because I didn't look like I was supposed to look, and I was a woman who was not really a glamour girl, and I was not really a matron yet. And so it was hard to sort of niche me. And because I could do a little character stuff, and probably because the casting director was somebody who knew me from New York, they figured, get somebody interesting, and they said, oh, I remember Merson. She was on the stage for 20 years. Let's look at her, I think that's kind of how it went. And unfortunately, I didn't have the luxury of being a contributor much, except only in hindsight. And you guys actually, what a riot when my agent sent me this note, and I thought, what? Somebody actually saw that? How interesting. And I think that's the value of any of our work, is that it's really process. It's like, who were you at a particular time? What do you contribute to the gestalt? What do you contribute, as an artist? And who do you represent? Especially in 3-camera TV and that stuff. I remember did a couple 3-camera shows like Frasier. I did a Frasier once, and I did there was a whole series of them, and they used New York guys because we knew how to perform in front of an audience. So that's why, and those casting directors usually are the ones who covered New York. So I remember doing a Frasier, and you did it just like a play. You came out, you met the audience.
Can you take us through memories that were kept with you from the moment you first got the script for this Family Matters guest role up until tape night? I know you had mentioned the conversations you had with Reginald as far as him maybe thinking that he might be the star of the show.
All I remember is Reggie. I think there was a table read, as I recall. There's usually a table read where you go in, and sometimes the day players don't get a chance to come to the table read. They just show up that day, say your words, and move. But and very often there's really not a lot of interaction. The day players are like everybody else is working their ass off all week long, and then I come in for 3 days of my audition of rehearsal, 1 day of rehearsal and 2 days of shooting, and boom, you're done. So there's not a lot of interaction or connection. It's a lot of, when you did those shows, especially then, I mean, there was no idea of an ensemble. It's one of the things that is really difficult. Having had my career in the years that I had it, and I still have it. I just did The Watcher last year with this Ryan Murphy thing. Now I only do it when they pay me a lot of money, and all of that. Is that you didn't get an opportunity to really be a contributor. You were really placeholders. We were placeholders. And really, if you look at 3-camera TV, if you look at any of the TV, you'll see that the people who are the regulars are the ones that the camera is on, and everything is shot over the day player's shoulders, So the fact that you guys even noticed that Sylvia the plumber was there is kind of lovely, because nobody else did. Nobody else did. So that was the difficulty of being a character actor, especially at that age, at that time. You had to find a way, and it very, very difficult to find a way to contribute to a television show like that. You can still contribute to theater, but TV was mostly about, does she look like it? Okay. So she said, I'm a placeholder, basically. a white Jewish face who can do a New York accent. Okay, good. Boom. 3 jokes, but bump and go home.
I mean, then that makes me curious. Maybe you kind of already answered my question there, but as you are preparing for this character on the way to tape night, are you thinking to yourself, okay, I got to really get into this for maybe the possibility that this character could come back? Or are you in acceptance of the fact that this is a one-shot thing? Let me just make the best of it.
It would be great if it came back. But at that point in my career, I was a little more savvy and, basically learn the lines, get the check, go home and make dinner for, the family and the dog. And there were very few times. I'll tell you, I did have a recurring on a show called One Day at a Time, which was with Patti LuPone and Bill Smitrovich. Now, Patti had come out of New York, right? Bill was an actor in LA, and it was about a kid who was disabled, Down syndrome kid. And he was being raised by this family that quirky, and he's being raised by this family that had a diner. And I was a waitress in the diner. And I did become a recurring on that. But the only reason I became a recurring on that was because my girlfriend was the writer, and she wrote it, and she wrote this wonderful part for me.
It's about who you know.
I hate to say it, I do hate to say it, because I really, where I had control was in the theater. Where I have control is as a writer, and where I have control is as a creator. But the television business, especially then, if you weren't a little blondie, skinny, beautiful little, ballerina girl, they're certainly not interested in an ethnic looking, woman who wasn't quite young enough to be gorgeous and old enough to be laughed at for being older.
Going back to tape night for the episode that you appeared on for Family Matters, because I mean, me and Andrew have already talked about the fact that, yes, I mean, you watch a sitcom that's multi-camera. It is pretty much like live theater. I used to do live theater, so I know what that feeling is like. Were there any particular difference in that feeling that you felt as the character on tape night that maybe distinguished it a little bit from live theater, or was it exactly by the books like doing Broadway?
No, it's not like live theater at all, because you don't have the freedom. Every take has got to be exactly the same. They're not interested in a film. They're interested in more than one take growing and becoming something different. But in a 3-camera, hit your mark, say the words, get your joke, and leave. That was the job. That is the job. It has more to do with technique than it had to do with art. I mean, I would have loved to have been in a writer's room. I would love to have contributed to something like that. But in this situation, it wasn't possible. But I do think the other guys did. I mean, Reggie clearly was involved in and I think there were 2 women. Forgive me, I don't remember the names, but the 2 women, weren't there 2 women? There was a mother-in-law and a mother.
Mama Winslow, Rosetta Lenoir. Jo Marie Payne was
Rosetta.
Harriet.
So Rosetta Lenoir was this wonderful theater actress who had started this incredible theater in New York City. She was like, the queen, Rosetta Lenoir, doing a TV show. Well, she was doing it because she was making money. So I'm sure now that that's how I got the job, because if Rosetta was in it, that means that the casting person was a theater person. So that's how I got into this, because they were using theater people. Rosetta Lenoir was a class act. Beautiful artist. And she was making money. God bless her, And then there was a mom. Who played the mom or the wife?
Yeah. How was Jo Marie Payne? She played Harriet.
Yeah, she was. I remember her. She was lovely. She was smart. And I'm sure that Reggie was, as I recall, I mean, if he's chatting with me, a day player, about worrying about Urkel, it was a problem. But the women were smart. Those women were smart. And I'm sure in the table, I wouldn't be surprised if Rosetta had been producing theater, a community theater in New York City forever. She was like a pioneer in this stuff. And I'm sure she had something to say. I would hope so.
I don't think you shared any scenes with Thelma Hopkins as Aunt Rachel, did you? Did you have a chance to interact with her?
I don't remember, frankly. I'm so sorry, but I don't remember. But I know the women were classy. They were very classy. They were all very classy. They weren't particularly interested in me. I was a day player, and they were, there's a hierarchy that happens. There's a hierarchy. So you're not a member of the cast, really. You're someone who, I wish it were different. If I had more than one episode, that would be true. But, these guys are cranking it out, and they're trying to figure out how to make it good, what to be, whatever. And I'm sure they're looking over their glasses and saying, how come this white chick is here doing this role when I know so many black actors who should be in here?
Going back to your conversations with Reggie, and Andrew, maybe you share this confusion. So the way the episodes air, your episode comes like 4 episodes before the official debut of Steve Urkel in episode 12. So did they shoot the episodes out of order? Is that how?
I don't know, but I do know that he knew that Urkel was coming. I do know that. That's all I remember. And I remember it because later on, Urkel became such a big deal, and I thought, oh, this is the thing that the guy was talking about, and he was a lovely guy, lovely actor and a lovely guy, very generous. They were quite generous to me, as I recall.
Was Reggie worried that Urkel would change the direction of the show, take his shine away?
I can't speak for him. I don't know. But, all I do remember is, wait a minute, I thought I was supposed to be the lead, and I think that either they had started rehearsing or something like that. I mean, as I recall, and don't hold me to it because it's been a long time. Listen, these are theater actors. They're getting their shot. You're the first season of a new show. You got 6 episodes. What was I? 8th episode of a 13 episode season. And it's like, okay, are they going to bring me back? Am I in the episode? Am I written? Am I making myself important enough, et cetera, and he was driving the show. He was the as I recall, and I even am remembering seeing it again. I mean, the guy was a comedian. He was great. He was really quite good at it. It must have been a stage actor because he had that kind of, as I recall, that kind of style. He was stylistically that way. And I think everybody was thinking, okay, I got a series. I'm a lead. I might be able to pay the rent next month. Okay, I've made this. How am I going to keep it? That's the actor's job. That's the actor's question always, anyway. And yeah. I'm sure he went on to a very good career and all of that other stuff. But they were in a different level than me. They were They were like the big shots. Me, I was like the hired help.
Andrew and I were talking about like how the viewing figures for this episode. I mean, a lot of shows would kill for that today. I think it was like over 20 million viewers viewed the episode that you were in. So I want to know if
over the years or when it was aired.
No. So when it originally aired, the episode got like I think 20.6 million viewers.
You're kidding me, really?
Yeah. I mean, it was 1989. I mean, there were not that many options besides cable TV. Did you get any recognition from anybody on the street in the days following that episode that you appeared on? Did anybody say, oh, yeah, I remember you from Family Matters the other night?
No. But 30 years later, these guys contacted me. They said, we're doing a podcast. Come on. They didn't, because I don't think I had enough of an impact, frankly, as a day player. I mean, I love that the idea that maybe I did, but and I had no idea it was 20 million people at that time. It's very interesting to me. I find it interesting because of the sociological aspect to it, and just feel grateful that I was able to be part of it on some level, whatever level that is. And I think even now, 30 years later, I still get the honor, the kavod, there's a Jewish word called kavod, of being part of something that I think was pretty interesting and pretty groundbreaking in its own way, And I know that it was, I mean, my friends, every now and then, somebody will call you from Paris or somebody's on vacation in India, and they'll say, I'm on the hotel and I looked at there you are on TV. You're doing this thing. You don't. I only went back to this hairdo about 3 weeks ago, but I haven't had this hairdo since I was in the show 30 years ago.
Yeah, wow.
Isn't that funny? I must have known it.
Can I ask about the sitcom taping experience for an audience? Because I've heard that it could be like sometimes between 3 to 4 hours sitting there between numerous takes. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I've gone to TV tapings, but it's only been like, say, a late night talk show where you're in and out in like an hour. Right. So can you describe what it was like for an audience and whether it was like, did they have to like, put a different audience in like a couple hours in because the previous audience was just like so tired from being there so long? Like, how did that work?
No, that was the deal. When you came in, I think it was shot, can't remember where we shot it, but people come in and when they come in and they seat them, and then there's a warm-up comedian, just like in the movies. There's somebody who goes out and tells bad jokes and gets everybody, yay, and all this nonsense that they do. And then they tell you, here's the deal. We're going to do this and we're going to do this and we might do it. And it might be an hour and a half. It's a 20-minute airtime, right? With commercials. So it's a half-hour show. It's 20 minutes. So bip, bip, you'd think you'd be in and out. But often it can take a long, long time, mostly because, not from the acting point of view and certainly not from the creative point of view, forgive me, but mostly technical points of view. Did you get the right camera angle? I mean, even remember the cast have been rehearsing all week, so they know how to hit their marks, etc. So if you have to do it again, sometimes it usually has to do with whether the mic got it, whether the mic's in the shot, all that technical stuff, whether the actor, as I recall, I don't think you have a camera blocking. In 3-camera, I could be wrong about this, but I don't remember having a camera blocking rehearsal. Usually in episodic, that's dramas, an hour, you have 3 rehearsals. They bring you in and then the director says, okay, let's do it for the words, and you do it for the words. And then they block it for camera. And then you get some idea as to where you're going to be and how they're going to break the scene. So when you're in a dramatic show, it's more like a movie and you can do take after take to really get it. But they don't usually break up half-hour comedies. It's usually, book, do it. Do you get the joke? You don't get the joke, we're going to put it in anyway. They'll put it in an audio. And then sometimes they'll say, okay, do it again. The joke's no good. It only gets a little laugh, but you have to take a pause so they can put, the sound guys can put the laugh in. So that's the kind of thing that happens in a recording. And then you come out, the first thing is you come out and everybody's introduced to the audience. And sometimes if it's long term, the fancy people will come out and chat with people and take questions. And, they're building a community here. And they really did a lot of that, as I recall. And so the warm-up comedian comes out, then usually the fancy people, like, in this case, probably Reggie and the women, probably not Rosetta because nobody knew who she was, but she was like the most fabulous of any of them. Forgive me. And then you go and you shoot first act, and it's usually in 3 acts, right? Which is like they're each 7 minutes, but you do it for 3 acts, and then you break, and it's just like a scene. Right. And things can go wrong. You can't open the door, or the door gets, fucked up or whatever it is. It's just like a play. So that's why it could take longer.
Were there any notable flubs during your experience there, either by yourself or by another actor?
I don't honestly. I don't remember, but I do know. I mean, you're asking me these things for a long time. I do remember, as I recall, they put me downstage and Reggie was upstage. As far as I haven't seen it. You guys saw it recently, but I think he was behind me. And I'm like, they brought me downstage and I was almost doing a shtick like down here. And as I recall, is that right? Yeah.
Yeah. I recall.
I'm down here, like talking to the fucking audience. It's like, well, but the guy I'm talking to is up there. Why did you bring me down here? So you think, okay, I'm going to do it, but you can't. It's like, come in, wind you up, say the words. God forbid I'm talking to the guy I'm talking to. I mean, I didn't have any opportunity to interact with him. You have to make that up, right? Because I'm downstage all by myself. There talking, as I recall, it was something about a bill and things like that. But usually when you do a bill, you're kind of looking at somebody to see whether they're gonna allow you to pay the bill, whether they want to. You can maybe jack it up or maybe take it down. We had none of that opportunity.
So as you noticed the show go on, get bigger and bigger with Steve Urkel kind of at the forefront, was there any part of you that thought like, this show seems fun. I might like to guest again on that show. I hope they give me that opportunity. Like, was there anything?
We weren't going to give Sylvia the plumber an opportunity because I wasn't central to the story.
Yeah.
Had I've tried, and this is like, there was an actor by the name of Jimmy Caron, God bless him. I think he passed. But Jimmy Caron used to say to me, did a couple TV movies with him, and he'd say, always enter the shot talking, because if you enter the shot talking, they can't cut it, right? So smart. He gave me all those kinds of ideas. And he'd say, position yourself. Don't ever let them shoot over your shoulder. Well, if you're a day player, you have no choice. But he said, yes, of course you have a choice. Just go like that so that your face is in it more, so that you can begin to negotiate with the camera a little bit to get more. I mean, I remember doing a Grey's Anatomy and trying really hard to play really hard with Katherine Heigl, who was starting to leave because I really thought, okay, and I did get another episode because of it, but that was later on in my career. But in this situation, I think it was, you should check and see. I think it was this guy, Jeff, who was cast a lot of stuff. Jeff Greenberg. I think it was Jeff Greenberg, who knew a lot of New York actors.
Okay, so one that's super interesting because I am all about how to behave on stage. What do you do to make yourself stand out more? I watched your episode. I was obsessed. I'm not going to lie to you, so fangirl for a moment.
Which one?
So I loved Grey's Anatomy with Katherine Heigl when you were there.
Oh, you saw that one. Yeah. I had two. Yeah, I had two.
You had two, and it was the first interaction that you had that made me already fall in love because there were people who appeared on that show who were there for a moment. We never saw them again, but I remember your face. And now that you explained that you would position yourself and enter the screen scene talking so they can't cut you short, it makes so much more sense now.
I do remember that one because that was a big deal. I remember they wanted me to sit on the end of the bed for the shot, and I wouldn't let them. And I stood up and I got in the same shot with Katherine. Because if you get in the same shot with the other guy, they can't cut it because she's the grown-up. And I don't know if this is appropriate, but I had done, my husband, God bless him, lovely, lovely man, actor too, had gone into real estate. Just makes no sense. So when Shonda Rhimes was just coming out of film school, she was starting to, be a genius, but she hadn't been a genius yet. But she already had like 3 or 4 shows, cooking, just such a brilliant woman. And my husband sold her 3 houses. And he was an actor too. And he sold Shonda 3 houses when she first started. One for her mom, one for him, for her, and then for somebody else, I think an aunt. And so my husband had some kind of knowledge of Shonda in a different way. And Linda Lowy was the casting director. And Linda Lowy was the mother of a kid who went to school with my kid. So when I first came in, I don't know if this is relevant and you can tell me to stop if it isn't, but when I first came into audition, I was like, they read me for everything for Grey's Anatomy, everything, because of Linda. And then when my husband died, I needed insurance. And I called Linda and I said, Linda, Tony has died and I need more. I need a couple episodes. She called Shonda, and wouldn't you know that lovely woman wrote me into 2 episodes.
Wow.
Now there is a mensch. I'm telling you, it's moving to me to this day that she did that.
It's amazing to hear because, you hear Hollywood, you hear the community, you hear actors. There's this network that you build just socially throughout your times there. So I was with Family Matters. Were there any social connections that you built with anybody in the cast, anybody doing the show, where those were connections that helped you out or built even bigger connections later in your life?
No, not really, except for Jeff Greenberg. I think I do, but double check. But I think Jeff was the casting person. And Jeff was the one who was kindly trying to, he would always see me for something. How it works, of course, is that the agent submits you. Or in those days, the agent submitted you. And then they, and depending on what agency you're with, they'd look at the submission or not. Now, like 1 trillion people do it. And it's terrible. So terrible. But anyway, in those days, Jeffrey would see me. And he and I had played a sex pot on Broadway, off Broadway. I was known as like a sex pot person because I was young and exotic. So he didn't know where to use me because in LA, I was already too old to be a sex pot and I was weird looking, and I was too exotic. So anyway, that's the only person that I think Jeff also put me into Frasier. I think he also did that. So that was the connect.
Really? Now, when you were doing other things in this realm of acting and whether it's off Broadway, camera, sitcom, were there any significant differences that you noticed among cast and shows that you were doing?
You mean the film show, the TV shows?
Yes, like the TV shows. Were there major differences that you noticed?
Sure. Comedies are very different than dramas, and long term is different than, and new ones. Like, for instance, I think I was on the first season of ER, and with George Clooney and Noah Wiley and all these guys, and that lovely girl, Julia. What's her name? Julia.
I think it's Juliana Margulies.
Juliana Margulies. She's very skinny and very lovely. That's how I remember her. And it was the first episode. And I remember the guys were all excited. I mean, the first season. So the energy was like, oh, man, we got something here. Let's go. Boom, 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 And then then I went on Scandal. I'm just listening to Kerry Washington's new book. You should read it if you haven't. It's interesting. It's got a lot to say about acting and a lot to say about what it is to be a Black actor in this community. And she's much younger than me, but very interesting book. So doing Scandal, now it was already maybe season 6, right? And this was a very tight cast. They really knew what they wanted to do. They were not interested in anybody else coming in. And, I came in, they put me in clothes that didn't fit me. I remember they didn't even take the time to do anything but put my hair in the most ugly hairdo I've ever been on TV with. And then the only note I got, the director was great to me, but the 2 cast members I did it with, I think there was a young man and a blonde girl. And they kept saying, here's what we do. On Scandal, we just talk fast. That's what we do. If you just talk fast, it'll be great. That's how we act. That's how we do it. There's no adjustment. You don't have to take any time. You just talk fast. Okay, I'll talk faster. So that one's on my reel. You can see that one. And that was pretty interesting. But the director, not the cast, came in and said, you don't listen to them. You do just what you want to do. He was lovely. That I do remember. That was Scandal. Maybe that was like season 6 of Scandal. So when you talk about the differences, you can tell if it's a new show, if it's an older show, they're like, by the time I was on Frasier, I was another one. I was like, oh God, I just want to go and get a drink. It's like, and I thought, okay, what'll I wear? I mean, at some point they don't even give you wardrobe anymore. And I thought, okay, I'm going to bring in my yellow fucking blazer. I'm going to wear my yellow blazer in this scene so somebody will see me.
Sorry, I just want to butt in. I apologize, Andrew. So Frasier is one of my top shows of all time. I could rewatch Cheers and Frasier any day. Can you remind me who you were in Frasier and what that experience was like acting alongside Kelsey and maybe the rest of the cast, David Hyde Pierce, et cetera?
Well, David Hyde Pierce is the best actor in America. I had done something with Kelsey in New York. Of course, he didn't remember, but we had been in a musical together because it was later on. The parts that I was in, they don't care. They want you to just do it and go away. The only place I had any kind of relaxation or really any respect, except for the respect from Shonda, is on A Day at a Time. Because I was there I was a recurring, and I think I did in that season. I think I did 2 seasons, and I got enough to get a coat, to get a jacket. Life Goes On. That's what it was called. Life Goes On. And I got a jacket, and I thought, okay. And so I was able, because I knew the writers, I was able to sort of shape this girl. And this one's on my reel on my website too. You can check that out if you want to see different things that I did, different episodes of different shows. It's mostly television.
Yeah, SusanMerson.com. I know you also mentioned your experience as, I think you said, a motel owner in the Netflix series The Watcher, which I thought was fabulous. I loved it.
That was great. That was just recent. Out of the blue, it happened. It was like some weird thing, and then all of a sudden I read for it and I got it. And who knew? That was really fun. And the guy who directed it, it wasn't Ryan who directed it. It was Paris, who is his like the second guy. They're like partners. And at that point, I think I was in episode. We shot it all in one day, but I was in like 2 or 3 episodes. I can't remember, playing a very odd person. And that was kind of fun because Paris said to me, he was a wonderful director, really nice guy, really smart. Anyway, he said to me, where are your cigarettes? I said, I beg your pardon? He said, where are your cigarettes? We got to get you smoking. I said, really? I hadn't smoked since I was in a play in the 70s in New York City. So I don't know if you remember the thing, but I mean, the whole thing was based on the fucking cigarette. And the room was so full of smoke that it was Bobby Cannavale and Watt. What's her name? Beautiful, skinny, lovely actress. Forgive me, I can't remember her name.
God, Naomi Watts?
Naomi Watts. It was Naomi Watts. She was very lovely, but she wanted me to stop smoking in her face. And Bobby Cannavale, who was, I could match him, which was fun. He wasn't interested in me matching him, but they gave me the opportunity. See, now because I'm older, and now because I'm getting cast in parts that are more mine, I know how to do it. I can do this smoking thing and blow it in Cannavale's face. And they can cut it, which they did. But if the director is willing, and those guys were willing and they pushed me, they said, go, do whatever you want to do. And it was fun because it was the first, I think it was like it was episodes 1 through 4 that I was on, and they weren't sure who the murderer was yet, or the watcher. So they weren't even sure. So everybody who came on got to be weird. Because I shot a couple other scenes that, just screaming in the background, weird shit, which was fun. And that really was a fun acting job. That was great. That was recent, like last year.
You just answered one question that I really wanted to know. What is the difference and how much fun have you had working now in a streaming service as opposed to going to a studio to do like a film for like a sitcom and a table read? That's amazing.
It's different now. The material is different now, right? I'm different now. I don't give a fuck now. You know what I mean? I don't care. You can cast me, you cannot cast me. I'm very secure in my abilities, and either you're going to like me or you're not going to like me, but I'm going to give you something interesting. I'm absolutely sure about that. I would love to get cast more often, but I don't have a face even now that the camera loves too much when I'm talking and I got big eyes and it's all that shit. That's why I get cast in weird parts, especially for television. It's very hard. I'm not a great... Meryl Streep, Meryl's got these tiny eyes, these beautiful little, she can do whatever she wants, and she's very beautiful, and she films so beautifully, plus she's a brilliant actress, but you know what I mean? There's a difference there. And I don't know. I would love to do more work. I think I'm really ripe to do it at this stage of the game. I'm really fierce. And I got a lot to offer, but I get some interesting auditions these days. Older women, there's more interesting things cooking. Okay. And I was delighted that Ryan Murphy and Paris cast me, and I hope I'm part of their. I know they got a 3-show deal with, and if I'm available. I would love to work with them again. That was really fun. That was probably and Lost in Yonkers were probably my funnest television and film experiences.
That's amazing. I want to know. I'm obsessed with Ryan Murphy and a lot of the horror stuff that he makes. So I have to watch.
Isn't he marvelous? God, they're marvelous. And what's interesting is these guys, they've kept their integrity because they don't care. Because they don't care at all. They know they've got their eye on the prize. And if you watch their stuff, if you watch Ryan Murphy's stuff, you look at the people like me who are the day players, and you will find some fascinating work.
Yes.
Because he's not afraid. Not afraid. He doesn't care. Paris says, well, I don't care. Smoke some more. What are they going to do? Fire me? I'm in charge. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's really nice. That part of it's really nice. So give him a call. Tell him I'm available.
Okay, we're putting in the atmosphere. I will be talking with Ryan Murphy very soon about this.
I hope so. Give him a call. Tell him, Susan's available, and I'll bring my own lunch.
Okay.
So who were you? So 6 Feet Under, also another one of my favorite shows. Who are you in that? And also, who are you in that Dustin Hoffman movie, Tootsie, which I saw?
Tootsie was my very first movie ever.
Talk about that.
I was in a play called Vanities in New York City, and Dustin Hoffman came to see it. I think Dustin came, and Sidney Pollack, who was among the loveliest men. Oh my God, so lovely. And I got a call, and they said, "Would you like to be in this movie?" And I said, "What? Okay." And I play an usher at NBC, right? And I worked for 2 weeks on that movie, and I'm on screen for 30 seconds. And Sidney Pollack said to me on the set with Dustin Hoffman, who is an interesting man, especially in those years, he wasn't so nice to work with, especially for women. God bless him. A very talented human being, but keep your hands to yourself. But Sidney Pollack said to me, okay, now, you're doing this thing and you're saying the words, and I was a tour guide. And then he turned to me and he said, okay, improv it. I was terrified. I was a young actress. I think I was no more than 25 years old. And there I was fucking standing there with Dustin Hoffman and Sidney Pollack. And I just totally froze. And that was my very first movie, but it was great. And what's the other one you asked me about?
6 Feet Under. Who did you play in 6 Feet Under?
I think I was a realtor. I don't remember. But I think it was directed by Kathy, as I recall. Kathy Bates, who I had worked with in Vanities.
Really?
And that was interesting. I remember I had a lot of hair. I remember they gave me a big hairdo, which was like, okay, when in doubt, play the hair. And I also remember that they shot it up here. They shot it from above. So you felt like in looking at it, you felt like you're in a coffin, as I recall.
Got it. Did you have dialogue or much of an off-screen conversation with like Michael C. Hall, Peter, what's his name, any of the main
No,
players?
I don't think I was in a scene with any of those guys. I think I was in with just one of the regulars. Mostly it was interesting for me because I hadn't seen Kathy in so many years. And we had grown up together. We were in the Lion Theater together in New York City, and we both became recognizable actresses at the same time under the tutelage of a fabulous director by the name of Garland Wright, who went on to run the Guthrie Theater Company. So that was pretty interesting, and that was kind of a reunion. At that point, Kathy had gone. I mean, the day that Kathy won an Oscar, I was sitting on the couch and I just had a baby. So she got her Oscar and I got mine. I got a Sophie and she got an Oscar. Those are the things that happen in life,
Now, for a hot second after college, I tried to be a professional actor. So I love to hear stories of what the realities of the business are like. And I know that for a time you were in Los Angeles doing your thing, and now you are in New York, and you're saying that you're now selective on roles based on pay and whatnot. Can you tell me what led you to that transition? Because I assume that, it's kind of has to do with just the toughness of the business, maybe, related to the toughness of casting you. Or
what happens in a career is you decide that you are an artist or you are not, right? And all you can do is offer your work, and all you can do is place it in the world. And there's a whole other aspect with whether you hit the right one or whether your ambition gets you to the place with the right, if you slept with the right person, or if Warren Beatty, wants you in their movie because you slept with him 45 times. Those are the things I was never good at. Was never good at any of the political stuff. I never even knew about the political stuff. I didn't even get it. I think that I worked enough in my television career in LA. I have a nice pension, and looking back over it, I think, okay, you did good enough. Good enough. Was it the great artistry? No, it was not great artistry. It was journeyman work, and it was making money, and it was creating a pension, and it was being part of an industry that had very little to do with art, because I wasn't in a place of power. So therefore, I wasn't creating art. I was a laborer, and I belonged to a union, and I got a union wage because I deserved it, because I worked hard and I got a union wage. It wasn't about art. The theater remains art because I get to be in charge of it. That's the thing. So, and also as you get older, it's like, I had to wait for several years. There's very few parts. Now there's more interesting parts, but I still am who I am. I still offering what I'm offering. I still got this face, and all the young people don't know who. I mean, I don't even know half the people who are casting now. I've got great agents, and they're lovely, and they stick with me, man. They stick with me. I just auditioned for something that I would love to do. But now the audition process is different, because now that everything's on Zoom, everybody can submit. They don't call like 3 agents and say, give me your top 7. They put it out on the thing, and anybody can submit.
Wow.
And the casting directors are not the people who are making the choices anymore. Because used to be when you read with a casting director, which now, according to the contract, you can go ahead and do that again. You can now request a Zoom audition, but you have to wait. So if there's one part and they say to you, oh yeah, you can request a Zoom audition, great. It's like when my first Broadway show was with Franco Zeffirelli, and you could only audition, I think, 5 times, and then they had to pay you. Well, Franco brought me back 11 times. Was I going to go and call my agent and say, excuse me, I would like to be paid for the last 5 times that Franco Zeffirelli wanted to see me for his Broadway show? I mean, what does an actor do? It's ridiculous, right? In that case, I got it, which is nice. I was 24 years old. It was my first Broadway show. But, and now it's a very different industry. They want different things. Stories are different. Language is different. Stereotypes are different. White people are not popular. It's not, I'm not angry with this. It's like now you really need to be an ethnicity, or it's diversity casting, and it should be, but it's not including me. It's not including me unless it's something weird, which is fine. I'm available to play something weird. So the industry has changed, so I'm a whole person, Being an artist is one part of who I am. It's in part of everything that I do. But television really is a minor part, because television wasn't art. Film, a little bit better. Lost in Yonkers was worth it. That was good. And I did 2 great Broadway shows, which I feel very satisfied about that. So I feel I've really had an opportunity and I've done wonderful new plays. as an actress, as a writer, as a director, as a dramaturg. So that's where my work.
Yeah, and you mentioned the independence that you can find in your writing career. I mean, you've written plays and short fiction, and you've taught classes.
It's not. I'm old and I'm a wise person. It's my job now to give it back. I teach. I also have moved into, divinatory stuff. I'm a tarot reader and I'm a psychic medium. So anybody who wants a reading, let me know, So, and that's all part of the same thing. It's channeling the work.
Yeah. So the independence that you found in careers like that, like the writing and the psychic medium, is that what sort of led to your current attitude about acting, which is like, hey, you know what? I'm just me and I'll take whatever I can get, and I don't really
it's all the same thing, honey, because when you forgive me for calling you honey, I don't mean to be patronizing. No. I'm old and you're young. That's the only reason I called you honey. My daughter, I can hear my daughter in my head saying, no, don't call people honey. When you're an actor, you learn how to channel. Okay. It's all energy. So when you're an artist, you're learning how to bring down energy. And not only that, but you're learning where you put it, what's you and what's the energetic you're bringing down. So look at this training, right? So that's what you learn. And then as you grow as a human being and an artist, think, oh, wow, I'm going to express that in my body as an actor, but maybe I'm going to express that, have a little bit more power and tell my story and become a writer. What does that mean? And how does language change that? And what kind of power does that give me? Maybe that's my responsibility to tell my story. And now then you get older and you even get smarter and you think, wait a minute, I know shit. I know stuff and I know how to give that to others. So that's the stage that I'm in now, my wisdom stage. I can teach you how to do that. And I can channel the energy and I can help us move forward. That's what the artist does. You don't do it from being a TV person, a journeyman actor on TV, but you do it from being an artist.
So going back to your writing work, did you contributed to the Chicken Soup for the Soul series? Did I have that right?
Oh, yes, sure. Yeah. Chicken Soup for the Soul. And I've had quite a few things on, Worcester Review and Lilith Magazine and lots of short stories over the years. And then I started writing novels. And my latest is How We Saw the Moon, available on Amazon. And Oh Good Now This, another one. These are really coming of age. This is the first coming of age story, Dreaming in Daylight, about a girl coming of age. And then the woman losing her husband and trying to figure out how to live again. This book takes place from 2016 to COVID.
I've listened to a part of the audiobook of How We Saw the Moon.
I'm so glad.
Chills. I got chills. So
I'm so glad.
It's good. It is the way you describe the pandemic, being in mass, I was enthralled. So
Thank you so much. That means so much to me.
You're welcome. I can't wait to finish it, but your book is what I'm going to be listening to this weekend.
Oh, I'm so pleased, hon. Thank you. That's the gift I'm giving now.
I mean, Susan, you've been so generous with your time. We thank you so much for joining us. And can you just, anybody who listens to this and says, oh my God, I want to, get in touch with Susan personally and learn more about her. How can they do that?
They can get to my website, www.susanmerson.com. And it's got more information there than any human being needs. And the contact there. Also on Facebook, Susan Merson. I'm a book coach these days and a developmental editor. So if anybody has anything they want to write and develop, I've got that cooking. And I'm doing a lot of voiceovers and I'm doing things like that. So I'm available for all of those things. She said, giving herself a...
I'm particularly interested in your tarot readings and your psychic mediums because I've visited professionals like yourself for God knows how long, because I'm always fascinated at how, like, you're a human like I am, but yet you possess this confidence and experience to, kind of like see into the future and let me know like what you...
So Jon, and you guys, both of you, call me when we're off, whatever, or, and we'll do a reading because I'm in the second year of a 3-year program and I have to do 80 readings, half-hour healing and psychic mediumship. So if you would like to do one, I'd love to do one for you on Zoom.
Love it. Andrew, have you ever done readings before in the tarot psychic medium world? They're great.
I've never done a reading before, and I would be thoroughly interested in it. It's always something.
Let's do it. We'll do it. It'll be fun. And you'll see you'll see how it connects to you, right? It's not me doing this. It's you coming through. You're going to see it's interesting. And the energy is changing, but that's a whole other part of my life. That's another hour and a half of talking. But the energy is shifting now, and we all have this responsibility to communicate with each other, figure out how we're going to do that, grow, make sure that we keep the conversation open. This is it, man. We are in the real times and we've chosen to be here. So step up. We have to all step up and love each other. I mean, it's all that stuff. That's it, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Susan, again, thank you so much for your time. And I'll definitely, contact you personally about
That'd be great. I'd love to do it. Thank you again, you guys, and best luck to you. And may your joy continue. That's the best part. Honest to God, I turned you on and you were having such a good time. I thought, oh my God, these guys are great.
Thank you.
Okay, sweethearts. Thank you so much. Om Shanti. Namaste.
Well, how about that?
Oh, she was pretty awesome. Oh, and she's pretty. I'm so sorry. I had to cut my mic off and my video off because there was like a huge glob just coming out my nose.
No, you're good. I was really genuinely concerned for your well-being. I was like, oh my God, is Andrew just gonna break down into a big puddle right now? You are very under the weather and you could have canceled today. I mean, I wouldn't have held it against you.
Oh, it is okay. I was dying to talk with her because I downloaded How We See the Moon and I was listening. I was like, oh my God, I'm enthralled. So I can't wait to talk to this woman. And then of course, then I get sick and I'm like, oh. And so after we finished earlier, I fell asleep, got up, went and moved my car. And I was like, okay, let me slap some water on my face, make sure I don't look like I'm sick. And then I hopped on the call. So I was like, I hope I don't look like a zombie right now.
Hey, you, even though you're clearly sounding like you're under the weather, you look like the glowing Andrew Ajay Vandertunt that I always know.
Yay! I'm glowing for radiation.
Yeah. Well, clearly, I mean, if you look at Susan's website, susanmerson.com or .net, whatever, we could have talked with her for 19 hours because what skill does this person not have? I mean, she's an actress. She, like we mentioned, writes plays and short fiction, and she teaches. She's a tarot counselor, encyclic medium person. I mean, she does everything. So please, for you listening, the best way to find out the full scope of who Susan is, susanmerson.com or susanmerson.net. Either way, it's just going to take you to our website. It is going to be awesome. Please subscribe, rate, review, listen to the Delicious Recap Family Matters wherever you get podcasts. We are on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Threads. We'll obviously post a clip or two of this interview up there at Family Matters Rewatch Pod. Andrew, can you sign us off with a slogan that definitely does not define how you're feeling right now?
Oh, I feel delicious. And I feel so delicious that if you tasted my saliva, you would let deliciousness ring.